The end of Primal is approaching, and with it come the final previews of the last episode, showing us that we may finally witness a true reunion between Spear and Mira. What will happen when they finally look into each other's eyes again? And what about Fang after the brutal battle against the Panther we saw in the previous episode? For this final chapter, the first preview that was released actually continues the second one, so to keep the sequence clear, we'll start with that second preview. It picks up directly from the ending of the previous episode, showing Spear finally searching for the location of Mira and Fang. He arrives at the place where they had all been before, and carefully studies the footprints left behind. In this moment of the preview, it's clear that Spear is still tracking them, guided only by the marks left on the ground. The scene relies entirely on visual storytelling to show how he's trying to piece together what happened after they were separated. The footprints act as a direct trail, pushing him to continue the search. Every element that appears on screen seems designed to point out the path Fang and Mira followed, making it clear that Spear is getting very close to finding them again. In this way, the preview sets the stage for the reunion the story has been building toward. After everything that has happened in the previous episodes, the fact that Spear finally finds clear traces of both of them becomes a key turning point for what we may see in the finale. The scene doesn't reveal too much, but it makes one thing clear: the path toward that reunion has already begun. But as he moves a little farther, his expression suddenly changes, freezing into a look of shock. The scene cuts right there, abruptly ending the second preview. Interestingly, that exact moment is where the first preview begins. In this continuation, Spear reaches the last place where we, as viewers, previously saw Fang and Mira. The area is covered in blood, scattered across the ground and the nearby rocks, making it obvious that a fierce battle took place there. The marks left behind and the remnants of the fight suggest just how violent the clash must have been. Seeing that much blood leaves Spear completely stunned. For a moment he stops, trying to understand what happened in that place and who might have survived the fight. But everything falls apart when he notices small traces of human blood among the other stains scattered around the area. That detail changes everything. It tells him that his daughter was there during the battle. The possibility that she might have been hurt, or that something even worse may have happened, triggers an immediate reaction. Without wasting a second, Spear lets out a furious, desperate scream, releasing all the tension he has been carrying. The scene cuts off right after that scream, leaving the situation completely unresolved and bringing the preview to an end. The teaser doesn't reveal what truly happened to Fang or Mira, but it makes one thing clear. Spear has reached the place where the confrontation occurred, and the scale of what happened there is far greater than he expected. So what can we take from these final previews? We know the ending is coming, not just the end of the season, but the conclusion of the story arc that has been developing throughout it. And with that in mind, now that we also know the title of the final episode, An Echo of Eternity, several possible interpretations begin to emerge about the kind of ending the series might deliver. The title itself suggests a conclusion with deeper narrative meaning, leaving room for different theories about how this story might ultimately come to an end. Starting with what we already know and what the season has been building toward, several key elements have shaped the story so far. Spear's return, the appearance of his daughter, Mira's journey to find a solution, Fang's initial rejection, and finally the reincarnation that brought Spear back with full awareness. From these elements, we could outline two possible endings for the final episode. One of them could canonize the ending presented in Season 2, while the other could serve as a more direct continuation of everything this third season has been building. The first possibility would be to canonize the Season 2 ending, but with certain nuances that allow it to be reinterpreted. In this scenario, Spear would manage to save his loved ones without having to sacrifice himself permanently, allowing him to remain with them for a longer time. That would give him the chance to live alongside his family and watch his daughter grow, guiding her as she becomes a skilled hunter. An ending like this would work as a direct counterpart to the final episode of Season 2, since both share a clear connection in their titles. While that episode was called Echoes of Eternity, this upcoming chapter is titled An Echo of Eternity. The similarity between the two names suggests a thematic link between both finales, almost as if one reflects or responds to the other. Under this interpretation, the new episode could revisit the meaning of that previous ending, functioning almost like a narrative mirror that revisits the same elements but from a different perspective. This approach would allow Spear to be reintegrated into the future of Primal, keeping him as an active part of the story rather than leaving his fate defined only by a final sacrifice. In that sense, the finale would not only close the season, but also reframe the earlier ending, creating a direct relationship between both episodes and offering a very interesting narrative counterpart within the overall story of the series. The second possibility, considering that Genndy Tartakovsky has never really backed away from major decisions or events within his stories, could represent the ending he always intended for Spear. In this scenario, Season 3 wouldn't function as a correction of the previous ending, but rather as a way to expand on it, and give a clearer farewell to a character whose conclusion once felt somewhat abrupt. Under this reading, the final episode would complete that closure, allowing Spear to play one last decisive role in the conflict. This would lead to a definitive goodbye for the character, resolving his narrative arc in a way that feels more developed and consistent with everything the season has built. At the same time, this ending would leave the door open for the future of the story. The narrative could shift its focus to the next generation, represented by his daughter, who would carry the adventure forward. In that sense, Spear's legacy wouldn't disappear with his departure. It would live on through her. Within this possibility, the idea of one final sacrifice could also fit. Spear might confront the main threat once again, possibly even sacrificing himself while facing the same beast Fang battled earlier. An ending like that would reinforce the essence of the character and bring his journey to a close with a final act that reflects everything he has represented throughout the series. Seen from this perspective, the title of the final episode, An Echo of Eternity, gains even more meaning. The name could serve as a direct reference to the echo Spear leaves behind in the story, suggesting that even if his presence comes to an end, his influence will continue to resonate within the world of Primal. In that way, the episode would function not only as the closing chapter of his story, but also as a narrative transition that prepares the path for whatever may come next. There's also a third possibility, one that blends elements from the previous two. In this case, the ending wouldn't need to fully canonize what we saw in Season 2, but it also wouldn't require sacrificing Spear again to deliver a satisfying conclusion. In fact, bringing the character back after his death, only to eliminate him again at the end, could feel narratively inconsistent. Under this third scenario, the episode would function more like a narrative bridge. It wouldn't restart the story from scratch, but instead connect everything that has been built across these 3 seasons with a new stage in the world of Primal. In that sense, the finale would serve both as the conclusion of the current arc and as a transition into whatever comes next. In this version of the story, Spear could remain part of the narrative while the focus gradually shifts toward the next generation. This would allow the series to evolve its original concept without losing what made it special in the first place. After all, the core idea of Primal has always been survival. The adventures of a caveman and a dinosaur struggling to live in a brutal, unforgiving world. With the direction the story has taken, that premise could now expand to include the descendants of both. The presence of Spear's daughter and Fang's offspring would keep that narrative core alive, but from a new perspective, one where the story continues to grow without losing its identity. A direction like this would also open the door to many possibilities for future seasons. We could watch Spear's daughter grow over time, going from a helpless baby to someone capable of surviving on her own in that harsh world. Between those 2 points lies a huge amount of storytelling potential. Her training, her relationships with the other characters, and the development of her abilities could all become central parts of the narrative. In that way, the end of this season wouldn't just be a conclusion, it would also act as a transition that sets the stage for new stories. Everything that has been built so far could serve as the foundation for expanding the universe of Primal, preserving its essence while introducing a new chapter in the narrative. Under this interpretation, the final episode could deliver an ending that feels both complete and consistent with everything the story has built so far. The defeat of the beast would stand as the last major obstacle overcome by the characters, while the survival of Spear's family would ensure that his legacy continues within the world of the series, even beyond the end of this season. But now I want to hear from you. How do you think the season will end? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be reading them all. See you next time.